Hi, everybody. Welcome to the December episode of the KnightTime podcast. We're glad you've joined us. If you were here last time, Mrs. Kristen Lenters was here talking about theater. This month, we are switching gears. We're going back to athletics. So I have the high school basketball coach, Mr. Kevin Pittman, here. I'm going to let him introduce himself, tell us about how long you've been here and that kind of thing.
Hi, Dustin. Good to be here. As Dustin said, my name is Kevin Pittman. I'm the boys varsity basketball coach here. I believe this will be my 26th year coaching in the program.
There you go.
I think it's my 16th year coming up as the head varsity coach. And I also coach girls softball here. And I believe next season, if there is a next season, will be number 9.
Okay.
So
that's always fun, right? It's like, okay, with COVID, I've been here 14 years. Without COVID, I've been here 12 years. It's like, but was that really a season?
it seems like COVID's been around for multiple seasons now.
Yeah,
so
it's
I'm ready for
weird.
that to go away.
Oh, we all are. We all are. So as you guys can tell, we are back in the gym. This is the main gym at the high school. We filmed in here before, but in case anybody was trying to figure it out, you probably can't see the whole floor, but we're literally sitting on top of the night. So let's talk a little bit about what a year in the basketball program looks like. Obviously, like I said, we're in December. So this is usually when basketball really kicks off. In the college world, there's a lot of tournaments. In the NBA, this is usually when everybody starts getting their Christmas plans figured out and when there's some stuff going on there. But again, we're in COVID. But let's talk about high school. So what would it look like in the high school program in December at CCHS?
Well, by the time this airs in December, that means in a non-COVID year, we would already have our Thanksgiving tournament under our belts. For, I believe, the past 5 years, we have played in the District 218 Thanksgiving tournament, which is a bunch of bigger schools, mostly from District 218, as the name would imply. It's been a really nice tournament for us. We've been very competitive in that tournament, and I believe playing those bigger schools prepares us well for games down the line in state tournament play. We see a bunch of different styles. We play some of those schools anyway on our regular season schedule, but so that's how we would prepare. Normally, basketball for the boys starts the second Monday in November.
Oh, okay. Second Monday.
So we would have a few weeks of practice under our belt as well, and that Thanksgiving tournament. Once December rolls around, we get into the heart of our conference schedule. And then for our Christmas tournament.
Proof that we're filming at the high school, the bell just went off.
For our Christmas tournament, every other year we play in the KSA Holiday Tournament in Orlando, Florida. And when we don't go to Orlando, we play for the last couple years, or for the last year, I should say that we did that. We went to Kankakee. We've kind of bounced around a little bit in Christmas tournaments because we were in the Lamont Christmas tournament for probably 30 years until that folded. And then we went to Romeoville after that, and then that one folded. So then we found Kankakee. We were there for a year, and then went to Florida for a couple years. And we were scheduled to go back to Kankakee, but that now has been canceled.
Yeah, it's the weirdness of 2020. You make a plan on Monday. By Monday, an hour later, everything's changed.
We say right now that plans not only change day by day, but minute by minute.
Oh, yeah. We feel that here. That's for sure. So what, in terms of building the program, like community outreach, are there any programs in place through the basketball program here that you guys do with either Oaklawn, Tinley Park, and the community?
With our SCCS community, or in the community in general?
Both.
With the grade school, we host a grade school night here, where the grade schools come and play each other on our floor here, and we talk to them afterwards, give them pizza, and fill their bellies and fill their minds, we hope, and just kind of try to get them excited to what playing here on this floor and for Chicago Christian would look like. In terms of the community, we try to be active in the community. We usually run a night hoops basketball program here for 7th and 8th grade students on Saturday, pre-COVID days. So that's a little bit of an outreach, and that's coached by my varsity boys basketball team.
Oh, cool.
So we have like a fantasy style draft.
Oh, really?
And they draft these teams, and then they coach these kids for
How
5
cool.
weeks.
Okay.
And it culminates in championship Saturday and with a medal ceremony and things like that.
That's cool.
And again, we feel that's kind of an outreach to
Absolutely.
the community.
Yeah.
We also try to do serve projects. My basketball team has served meals downtown.
Okay.
For homeless, and we try to involve ourselves at the thrift store when they need help and things like that. So
Nice.
basketball is a really busy season. It's a really long season, normally long season.
Yeah.
So, but we still try to get those things in there and be active in the community.
That's really cool. So I grew up playing basketball. I'm sure a lot of people that are going to be watching this podcast did as well. What does this typical season? So you mentioned that there'd be a tournament at Thanksgiving, then December is when conference play begins. When does conference play typically end and playoffs start? What does that look like?
Well, we go with our regular season schedule until February, and then end of February, hopefully you're playing into March because that means you've advanced in the tournament.
Okay.
So regionals usually start the end of February, beginning of March, around that time. So you're hopefully playing quite a ways into the season. And sometimes if our football team is successful, they're still going and our practice has started. So we have to start without our football players that play both sports. So there is a bit of an overlap there, but it's a good overlap because it means that they're being successful and hopefully we'll be successful as well.
Sure. Yeah. So a good long season would be about 5 months then. That is quite some time in a school year to be playing a sport.
It's funny you say that because at the parent meeting that we have at the beginning of every season, we say we're about to embark on this journey together, but we'll be spending probably more time with your son than you will be for the next 5 months or so. So we say a lot that it's like the Knight family, and it becomes like family.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that, again, growing up playing basketball, you had, like you mentioned, the Saturday program. Sometimes you had 2-a-days, you had tryouts. You really get to know people in 5 months. You get to see what they're like under pressure, right? Shooting a free throw. You also get to see, what their joy looks like when you win a big game. So that's really cool. Well, let's transition our talk here. So we've talked a lot about what it looks like in a typical season. So for those of you who are wondering what day this is, we're filming on a Friday, which we're typically remote anyway. But as of right now, our students are remote learning until December 7th. So it's a little quiet around here. What impact has COVID had on basketball? What does it look like to host basketball practice and stuff like that in the midst of COVID?
Well, the IHSA, because our summer regiment was so different this year and kind of screwed up, actually, they gave us contact days that we could have prior to the opening of practice. So we had 3 weeks of contact days that we had with our teams, and they were different. It started out that we could just conduct it like a normal practice. But then as restrictions tightened, we were told that, and I should say through all that we had to wear masks. So, and the boys didn't like it much, but I said it's either this or not doing anything at all. And they all said, well, then we'll do it this way. I said, well, of course you will. So that was different. And we found that conditioning was a little different with that as well. With basketball starting, and some of these players hadn't done a whole bunch because of COVID. We really did nothing in the summer. So some of these guys hadn't done any physical activity, running or anything, for months.
A little bit of a rude awakening.
Right, and then to do it with a mask on. So we kind of had to ease into that portion of it. So that was a little bit different already. And then as we got into it, I believe it was the end or about the middle of week 3, the restrictions tightened again. And for, I think it was 1 or 2 contact days, we couldn't have contact. So it was a contactless contact day, meaning that we could just do drills and things like that. There could be no contact. You couldn't run defensive stuff. You couldn't do any of those things. So luckily that changed for us on the last day, so we could go back on the last day, and again, still with masks and everything, but we could go up and down full court with contact because that had eased. And now as you know, it has tightened up even more right now. Everything is on hold and no contact.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. That's one piece when I was looking at, there was an article that was in the newspaper a couple weeks ago talking about what the basketball season would look like at that time. And as you mentioned, it changes by the minute. So that article was almost null immediately. But yeah, the idea of no fans, the idea of masks, the idea that everybody would obviously have to be temperature checked. It just, thinking back to when this all really started in the US, this was when March Madness was supposed to start. And I guess a lot of us thought that by the time the next basketball season would have arrived, that things would have changed. But in fact, the cases have gone up.
Yeah, so count me in on that, thinking that it would be here and gone by this time. But it's changed. It's changed everything, not only high school basketball, but the way we do school, the way we go out, the way we can't go out, or what we do, So, high school basketball is absolutely not exempt from those changes, but we talk about those changes and what it's going to mean for us as coaches, how we may have to approach the game differently, with wearing masks being something that we know is going to affect conditioning. Are we going to get more timeouts per game? Is our rotation going to have to increase because we feel kids with the style that we play, we don't think that they're going to be able to log the minutes that they normally had done in the past. So rotations may have to be bigger and things like that you would have never thought of before COVID.
Right. Yeah. Maybe a 10-person roster becomes a 15-person roster. It's definitely something that, like you mentioned, you don't think about how one thing can make such a big impact, whether that be, again, in basketball or how many kids you can have in a classroom. But yeah, in March, we all thought, okay, it'll be here for a couple weeks and then it'll go away. But it has not done that.
Right. And I don't know about you, but I never, ever thought March Madness would be canceled.
No, that was weird.
Yeah.
There was a really funny ESPN article that I read back in March. And it was talking about how at the beginning of this pandemic, a lot of people thought it was like 2 weeks off of work and then we'd all go back. And they were like, it hit me when they canceled March Madness. He's like, that's like we walk into Easter and April after we've had March Madness. It's a part of our calendar. Whether you're a basketball fan or not, a lot of people fill out brackets. And so when you have these moments on the calendar that help you propel through the year, and then you take that away, we all go, wait, is it really summertime? We didn't have March Madness.
Right.
And then, of course, the NBA Finals were super late. We just had the Masters this past weekend.
Right.
It's like, what month is it?
Right. And it seems like basketball just ended, and the draft was the other night again, and now they're talking about playing in December. It's like, wow, that's pretty bang, 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 getting them up and going again. And up and going again is how we want to be here. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen for a little bit.
Yeah. So on that note, I think we'll conclude with this. So for those watching, whether they are looking to join the basketball program, maybe they're a freshman or maybe they're, an Oaklawn or Tinley Park 7th or 8th grader, what can these kids be doing during this pandemic to improve their basketball skills, whether that be by themselves or if they're, playing backyard basketball with mom, dad, or siblings?
It's funny you say that because I think one of the main things that you can do is shoot the ball correctly.
Okay.
And when we have summer camp here for our younger kids, our grade school kids, that's one of the things that I focus on quite a bit is shooting the ball correctly, because at the high school level, our job as coaches, a lot of the times at the beginning of a kid's high school career, will be to correct bad habits.
Sure.
And usually those are shooting habits.
Okay.
And I blame some of that on the three-point line at the grade school level. The ESPN mentality has kind of been, well, it's really not cool unless it's a dunk or a three.
Right.
Well, most grade school kids aren't dunking, so they're shooting the three.
Right.
And when they shoot the three, they're really not strong enough to do it with correct form. So they'll develop just really odd and bad shooting habits that we kind of have to correct if they want to be a good shooter. So we practice quite a bit on form shooting, which for a lot of the kids is boring because, we know how to do this, and really you don't. So we spend quite a bit of time trying to correct shots. And one of the things that you have to realize when you do that is correcting a bad habit takes thousands of repetitions.
Absolutely.
And you have to do those repetitions correctly in order to fix that habit, or else you're just enforcing the bad habit.
Sure.
So while parents and players, find somebody who can help you shoot correctly and shoot that way. And if you can only shoot the mid-range shot, then shoot the mid-range shot. Work yourself up to the three-point line. But that's one of the things that I would tell you. Work on your shot. Work on good shot form, and also be able to use your left hand if you're right-handed, and be able to use your right hand if you're left-handed.
Sure. It reminds me of The Last Dance. There's a shot with Steve Kerr, and he's about midway in the paint, and he's just practicing, so that when Michael Jordan finally kicked the ball to him in that game, he had it down, but he made sure his form was right. He knew where he needed to be. Those are all things that you work on your own time, so that when your number is called, you're ready to go.
Right, absolutely. There's so many things that go into correct form, and we always tell kids you shoot with your hands, your eyes, and your feet. And all those three things have to work together in order for your shot to be, effective and to be a good shooter. And, I've always said this to my players. I've never once had to cut a kid from a high school team because you've been too good of a shooter. Just doesn't happen.
True. You will find a way into the rotation if you can make good shots. We'll give you a 3-person pick, whatever we got to do. We will make sure you can get your shot off.
Yep.
All right. Well, I had a blast. It was fun talking basketball again. Everybody here that's watched these podcasts knows it's my first year, and talk about a first year to be here. I was pretty pumped for football season. We're kind of delayed on that. I was very pumped for basketball season. We're kind of shrugging about what that looks like. So it's been nice to talk football with Nick Cook, and it's been nice to talk basketball with you. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for hosting me.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are curious about the next one, obviously January is coming up next. We are looking at an election episode. So stay tuned for details on that. We're pretty excited. It's still in the works, obviously, because we've got Christmas break to go yet. And then 2021 is here. Who knew that was going to happen so fast? But thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you guys in the next podcast. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. See you guys.
See ya.